Hi everyone, and welcome to another session from Trinity Laban Health at Home. My name is Katy Chambers. I am a Senior Performing Arts Specialist Physiotherapist, and I'm based as part of the team at Trinity Laban Health. Today's session is going to be just a short session guiding you through a little Pilates. So whether you've done Pilates before and are very experienced or have never done it at all, that's absolutely fine. It's not a problem. One of the wonderful things about Pilates is it's a very accessible form because there are lots of modifications of all of the different exercises. Joseph Pilates called his own study, his own practice, contrology, so it's to the study of control. So really today we're going to think about a little bit of movement, a little bit of control, rather than lots of strength work or lots of force required. So hopefully you'll be able to participate and enjoy. In terms of what you need to participate, really nothing at all. That's actually why I've intentionally brought my practice outside. I've put a tile on the grass. If you're working inside space, maybe you don't need anything on the floor, but if you're on a hard floor, a wooden floor perhaps, a tile or a mat if you've got one might be helpful. But you don't need any special equipment to join in with us today. So firstly, I want you to find yourself a comfortable seated position. I have one foot in front of the other, legs crossed is fine, it just depends on your body. What we're going to do to begin with is think about breath. It's really important that throughout this practice you are still breathing. There are some quite clearly directed breathing patterns when it comes to Pilates work, but actually my priority for you is that you just keep breathing throughout. So keep the breath flowing, and if you catch yourself doing an exercise holding your breath, just find it again, take a moment, pause for a breath and get yourself going. So what we want to focus on is making sure the breath is not all up here. It's not about shoulders going up and the neck getting tense. We're going to try to direct the breath that little bit lower down. So if you can find your belly button and just place your hand beneath that somewhere, I want you to think about breathing into your hand. So you're just going to take a nice breath into the hand, stomach expanding, and then out. And again, I'm breathing in through the nose, just nice and deep, and out. It's quite relaxed, but it's also expansive. Let's have a go at integrating that with just a little bit of movement. We're going to start with a spine twist. So for the spine twist, place your hands together, or if you prefer, one hand sort of crossed over the other towards the elbows. Importantly through this, we don't want to be twisting the head ahead of the torso or the arms of the torso ahead of the head. We keep everything nicely aligned, which is why I quite like nose and thumb aligned, but whatever feels good for your body. So we're going to take a breath in, and we're going to rotate the body as we breathe out. Grow tall as you turn. Breath in at the end, and breathe out as you return to the center. We're just going to take a few repetitions of that. Nice breath in on the break. Breathe out and rotate. Breath in as you hold. And breathe out, return to the center. Think like a bottle top as you turn. So we're not just rotating, we're rotating and spiraling upwards as we go. Breath in. Breathe out and turn. If you wish to add a little extension on the end here, you can bring the chest up towards the sky. And return. And to the center. So you can see that all the while we're integrating the breath through the exercise. Introducing a little bit of spinal mobility, including that extension if you wish. And returning to the center once more. So hopefully you enjoyed that little bit of wakening up for that spine rotation. We're going to keep with this theme of gentle spinal mobility, but instead of on a rotation type plane, we're going to add it into a flexion and extension plane. So I'm just going to turn sideways so you can see what my body's doing. So we take the knees bent up so they're in a comfortable position. The movement is actually starting from the tailbone, so we're thinking about a tucking under of the tailbone. and coming back up. So if you just start with this movement, a gentle tuck under and come back up. It can be really, really small. Just tilting that pelvis and returning. Tilting the pelvis and returning. You should start to feel that arch in the lower back gets lost and then you find it again. It gets lost and then you find it again. We can take that just a little bit further. If you need the support, keep your hands just behind your knees, or if you're happy to, you can take the hands out. Remember, it starts from tucking the tailbone, little gentle drop, only as low as you're comfortable, and coming back up. Did you breathe? Tucking the tailbone, lowering, and coming back up. An extra point to note on this is what's happening with the abdominal area. So what we don't want is a really strong sucking in of the abdominal muscles, but equally we don't want a doming out of the abdominal muscles. So as we do this exercise, we're going to think about breadth through the back and a gentle scoop through the lower abdominals. I like to think of an ice cream scoop. So it's an inwards action, but it's only ice cream. It doesn't require too much force. So when we come from this position, we're going to take a little gentle scoop through the abdominal area and then coming back up again. Keep the breathing going. Scooping and returning. If you wish to add, you can add a little rotation. If not, just keep doing exactly as you were. If you choose to add this rotation, alternate between the two sides and make sure you keep that scooping action. It feels a little bit like a bow and arrow. You're drawing back as you rotate, still scooping and coming up. Drawing back as you rotate, still scooping, still breathing, and find that tall position at the top. Let's have one more to each side. Scooping and breathing. And let it relax. Lovely. Okay, so we're going to think about this connection that we've begun to wake up in the lower abdominals. And we're going to take it all the way down to you laying flat on your back, on your mat or the floor, wherever you are. So still, this is a gentle connection between the pubic bone and towards the belly button. We're not sucking in really hard and we're not letting the abdominals bulge up into a little dome. We're going to have a little test now to see that we can keep the pelvis level. So if you had a spirit level across from the top of one hip bone to across the top of the other hip bone, we want to keep the bubble right in the middle. Can you keep that bubble right in the middle whilst you float one leg up? We're bringing the knee and the hip to about 90 degrees and coming back down again. Floating one up and coming back down. Keep going with that action, just floating one up at a time and coming back down. I'm going to give you a few pointers to think about. When sitting or standing, we typically have a small curve in our low back. It varies from person to person. Mine is not very large. Some people's are much more curved. So we're not trying to flatten. We're trying to maintain the natural neutral position. So we want to maintain that as we're floating a leg up, not flattening and not arching. If this is the right level of exercise for you, keep going with this level. I'm going to give some additional options for those who wish for them. So we can bring one leg up, and once it's there, make sure you're really thinking about how to keep this pelvis level. I like to think a magnet from one hip bone to the other, drawing across the middle, gets my deep abdominals engaged so that I can bring the other one up to join. From here, you can try tapping one foot down and back up. One foot down and back up. So this is the next level of our scissors exercise. For those who want something even more challenging, you can alternate. As one's coming back up, the other one's already on its way down. Make sure the breathing is still going and the shoulders and the neck are as loose and free as you can keep them. Still breathing as you alternate one leg to the next. In keeping with this theme of keeping the pelvis level with this gentle engagement of the lower abdominals, we're going to move on to a hip twist. So instead of lifting the leg, we're going to keep the feet flat on the floor and just let one knee drop out towards the side and then bringing it back towards the center. Again, relaxed and controlled in the center, keeping the breathing going. One knee drops gently out to the side and returns to the center. Notice that it doesn't have to go the whole way to the floor. If you go all the way to here and your pelvis starts to tilt, that shows that you've lost the control that we had in the center. So your priority should be here. We've still got that spirit level, and if you like, you can place your hands on those hip bones so that you can feel when you get to the point that you're going to rotate. So you keep the control and return to the center. So we're just freeing up a little bit around the hip and making sure we've got good rotation control as well as the pelvic stability. Keep going if that's the right level for you, or like the previous exercise, we can come up to tabletop. And this time you take the whole leg out to the side. So it's a little bit different because the feet don't stay together. Whole leg goes out to the side and you're returning. Whole leg rotates out to the side and returning. Notice there's a relaxed breath continuing throughout the movement. Try one more on each side. And then you can let the legs relax. If you wish, you can hug them in towards your chest. Give them a little rock side to side, stretching out through that low back. We're going to up the challenge level a little bit now. So this time the leg movement is actually going away in a straight line. I'll move so you can see my feet. So we'll start with the basic level, and it's a single leg stretch. So again, keeping the pelvis level, no arching of the back. Nice breath in before we go anywhere, breathing out and just sliding one leg out along the floor and returning to the center. So it's an isolated movement, nothing else is happening but that one leg stretching and then returning to the center. As with the previous exercises, if this is the right level for you, keep going. Don't stop to watch the other options, stick with what's right for you. Stage one of increasing the challenge is to have the leg just off the floor. So it's a little bit more challenging for the lower abdominals if the leg is off the floor. So that foot, even just a couple of inches up. As for the previous exercise, you can bring it up to tabletop. One, find that center. Make sure you're not arching your back as you bring the other one to join. Stretching away, coming in, breathing the whole time. For those who really want a challenge, add the arms in too. Opposite arm goes up over the head as the leg stretches away. Opposite arm up over the head. So we're bringing a little bit of coordination in here too. You can even do two arms for those who really want a challenge today. Just be mindful that you're not then compensating by stretching through the back. One leg comes down at a time. And you can give a little rotation stretch. You want to drop the knees side to side, or as per the previous, you can hug those knees into your chest. Just give your low back a little bit of a stretch out. The next exercise we're going to do is actually one of Joseph Pilates' original exercises. So we've been modifying up until this point. So we're going to take some options of the 100. So the idea with the 100 is it's 100 beats. Don't worry if you're thinking that 100 will be too much for you. You can take rests in the middle, come down and just do it whatever is right for your body. To get into the movement for the 100, I'm going to describe it in a kneeling position, although that's not where we actually work for the exercise. This is a great preparatory exercise because we've still got to keep control and stability in the center. We don't want the movement causing the body to go forwards and backwards. All of the action comes from the back and the shoulder girdle. With nice stretched out arms and fingers, the idea is it's a beating action like this. So you're beating, 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 beating. If I don't hold my center, I will move due to the force of my arms. So if I'm beating, I want to keep this nice and steady in the center. So you can see when I do and don't use my abdominal muscles, gentle connection allows me to maintain a steady position here in the center. If that's a good exercise for you and that's really making up those abdominals, perhaps you want to do your 100 here. So you can stay in this position and do your beating action here. For those who want to do the version on your back, come all the way down onto the floor or onto the mat, wherever you are. And I'm going to give you some options of levels. You can do a little lift with connected abdominals, arms reaching out towards the shins, and do your beats here. If that's a bit too much strain on your neck, you can alternate. You can do, say, 10 beats with one arm, keeping the head nice and relaxed and supported with the hand, and 10 with the other side, keeping the head nice and supported with the opposite hand. Depending on the challenge level you're looking for, you can take this up to tabletop also. So you can take the feet all the way up, body up like this. Pick the level that you want to work at. So you could be kneeling, doing the beats with the hands. Maybe you've got the feet down. Maybe you're using one hand and the other supporting the neck, or maybe you're using both hands. Do what is right for you. There's no better or worse. It's all about control and doing what's right for your body. So let's go together and see if we can make it to 100. If you need a break, take the break and join back in with us when you can. Okay, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure you're still breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 50. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 60. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 70. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Watch those abdominals are not doming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 90. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 100. Well done. Let the head and the shoulders come down, then one leg at a time. Nice deep breath and hug those knees in. Because the hip flexors have worked quite hard on that one also, just take one leg and stretch it away. So we're getting nice length through there as you hug the other knee into your chest. And then we'll swap over to the other side, hugging one knee in, stretching the other one away so you get a nice lengthening sensation. And then you can grab behind that knee to bring yourself up to sitting, which is the starting point for our next exercise. We're going to do the seal. This is a favourite of mine, partly because it's a little challenge for a lot of people, but mostly because it's good fun. So the idea with this exercise is that you're playing with momentum and control. So mostly in Pilates, we don't get the chance to use momentum. It's all about control. So this time we're going to use a little bit of momentum. The idea is that you let your body roll. So we're going to roll back and come back up to sitting. Make sure there's a clear space behind you before you do this one. And the trick is you've got to work out how to put the brakes on. So basic level exercise, you can hold behind your knees. If you're happy to, you can hold just above your feet. So this balancing position is essentially our starting and finishing position. We're going to roll backwards, which means we've got to use that tucking of the tailbone that we used in one of the warm-up exercises. So you're going to roll all the way back, not onto your neck, and stop in a balance. Let the momentum kick in to roll, curving through the body, come up into a balance. So you can see I'm not letting my feet come all the way to the floor. The challenge is to stop in a balance, to find the control through the center. So I'm lengthening, holding, and importantly, still breathing. The straighter you go with those legs, the more of a challenge you're making it for yourself. It's not a competition. We don't need to stretch those legs. If you need to hold behind your knees, especially if you're a little bit stiff through the low back, that helps you get even more of a curve. And it'll help you find that balance at the top. Find the level that's right for you. Let's try a couple more. test yourself if you wish. And one last one. Well done. For this next exercise, we're going to come to lay on our sides. So you're going to lay all the way down onto your side, stretch out that underneath arm, and let the head relax. First thing I want you to think about is the space at your waist. So we want to really think about having a little mouse house under here. So if I take this top hip, pop my hand on my top hip and just push it away a little bit, it helps me to even out a little bit through my waist so that I'm not just sinking down and getting comfortable as if I were going to sleep. So we're pressing away so that the hips are stacked one on top of the other and my spine is a little bit more neutral rather than dropping down towards one side. I've got my feet in line with the line of my body. So from my head all the way down my neck, body, if I continue that line of my spine, that's where my feet are. So they're not behind the body, but they're also not in front of the body. I'm going to have an imaginary glass of water on this top hip, and all we're going to do is open the top knee up towards the ceiling. Lifting that top knee and slowly lowering down. This one's called the clam or the oyster. You're taking the knee up like you're opening that clamshell. Importantly, I want you to just really slowly control on the way back down. You get a little bit extra challenge if you want some extra range by lifting those feet. Just an optional extra for those who wish. Lifting the knee towards the ceiling, but importantly not rolling back through the body, keeping that glass of water without spilling a drop. Slow, controlled on the way back down. At the top, if you wish, you can even add a little pulse. You can go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and slowly back down. You should really feel the rotation muscles in the hip working. If you can, try to do this one without squeezing really tightly with the glutes. Then you manage to target some deeper rotation stability muscles in the hip. Let's have one more of whichever version you're doing. And then you can let the feet come down. Give those muscles a little bit of a rub, a little bit of a pat. That's what they need. Let's take it to the other side. So bring yourself all the way down onto your side. Importantly, let's think about that setup again. So we relaxed the head, we've got one straight line, all the way down, the feet fall on the same line. Top hip, press it away, so we've got that little mouse house in underneath, glass of water bounce on the top hip, and we're all set to go. Floating the top knee upwards, slow and controlled on the way back down. So you're trying not to have a jerky, wobbly movement. So your aim is, with a little bit of practice, to make that a smooth movement upwards and a smooth movement downwards, nice and flowing. Again, there are optional extras. You can take those feet up so you're working through a larger range. And you can add a pulse on the end if you wish. Are you still breathing? Sometimes it gets forgotten when we're concentrating. One more on this side, whichever version you're doing. And then let it come down. Give those muscles a little bit of rub. Nice. We're going to give those a quick stretch out since we've used the rotation muscles of the hip. So there are lots of ways you can stretch out the rotation muscles of your hip. You can do it in seated with one leg in front of the other and just lean forwards over it. That's a nice simple way of doing it. So this front leg, if you follow that all the way back to the hip, that's the side you should feel the stretch on. You can move a little side to side to find the right area for you. If that stretch isn't the right one for you, you can try the number 4 stretch, or what I call a pretzel stretch, crossing one foot onto the opposite knee and hug in towards your chest. Again, you can play side to side, find the right spot for you. Keep breathing as you stretch. And then swap sides, whether you're doing the seated stretch or the pretzel stretch, swap over to the other side and give the other hip a little bit of a release. And let it come down. Okay, we're going to finish with one more exercise, and one of my favorite ones to finish with because it really helps me feel like I've finished my practice with some lengthening. So we're engaging through the back muscles. We're going to do the swimming exercise, which requires you to come over onto your front. And the idea is it's all about length. So what we don't need to see is masses of height on this exercise. I'm going to imagine that I'm reaching for the hedges at the far side of the garden, and the same with my toes, and I'm reaching for the car park at the other side. So whatever you've got, whether you're inside and you're reaching for the walls, remember we're not reaching for the ceiling. So whilst laying on your front, you're going to put the arms out in front of you. I want you to really be conscious of what we talked about earlier about this position of the lower portion of your back into your lumbar spine. Your tailbone should be lengthened gently away without squeezing the glutes. So if you think there's a little drawing pin right underneath your belly button, so it's sticking up a little spike. You don't want to push your stomach down into the mat or the floor. You want to keep just a gentle lift. But check in for yourself. Can you keep that lift and still maintain a nice deep breathing? That's what we want. In this position, let's start with just the arms. You're going to reach one arm away until it just floats up. Maybe it doesn't come off the ground at all. That's not a problem. The aim is you're going for length. And down. Try one more with each arm. Let's try the same with the legs, one at a time. Be very mindful of the pressure through the front of your pelvis. So a bit like those exercises we did with the hip twist and the double leg stretch earlier, we didn't want the spirit level to be rocking. So think about the pressure of each hip bone in the floor. Try and keep it nice and even regardless of which leg you're lifting. So let's try the same lengthening exercise with the leg. Now let's make a combination. We're going to bring back in that coordination as well. Right arm, left leg, left arm, right leg. So you're reaching opposites at the same time. Imagine you're one of those Stretch Armstrong dolls and someone's really pulling you in opposite directions. So each time you put a hand or a foot down, it's an inch or so further away from where it was when you lifted it. Keep the breathing going. Reaching, reaching. Floating back down. Opposites, reaching, reaching. Feel that pulling sensation. Breathe out as you lift. Breathe in as you lower. Breathe out as you lift. In as you lower. One more on each side. Bring the hands in under the shoulders and just press yourself back so that you're putting your hips towards your heels, stretching out into a child's pose. For those who are a little more flexible, you may need to drop your knees apart to get a nice stretch through here. Breathe as you stretch. stay low. Walk those hands over towards the left, so you really feel a stretch down the right hand side. And let's go the other way. Walk the hands to the opposite side. Come back to the middle, and then we'll curve up through the spine to a seated position. Hopefully you enjoyed that little introduction to some Pilates that you might do at home, and look out for more videos.